If you drive a Jeep, and let's be honest, if you're watching this show, you probably drive a Jeep. Today's show, I think, is for you. How many times on the internet have we seen, what's the largest wheel size I can put on my stock Jeep? In fact, I'm sure many of you have asked that question. Or maybe you're ready to upgrade, and the question is, what do I need to do to upgrade to 37s? Do I need a lift kit, a spacer kit? Maybe you don't even know what those are. If that's the case, welcome aboard. We're part one of our two-part series on lifts, wheels, and tires. Today we're talking about, you guessed it, lifts. So sit back, relax. We've got, as always, Ryan Stoangi from Combat Off-Road and Tim Rogers from TMR Customs. These guys, they know their stuff when it comes to this, so I'm going to ask your questions, I'm going to ask my questions, and we're going to pull out as much information as we can. If you learned something, hit that like button. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and hit the bell. And if you're listening in the Jeep, hey, even better, crank it up, drive your wife crazy. In fact, crank it up and drive your husband crazy. We appreciate each and every one of you, each and every week for being here. Really can't thank you enough. So with that said, let's get into it. Let's talk about lifts. Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Light Bars and Lockers. Again, joined by my two co-hosts. We have Ryan from Off-Road Addiction, Combat 4x4, and Tim, of course, from TMR Customs. How's it going, guys?
Awesome. Yeah,
nice. So, Tim, tell me what's happening in the last few days. Anything? I know this COVID thing is sort of limiting, all the action. But yeah, what's up?
Yeah, being that I think we're on the good side of things, and hopefully things are getting better. We're working some early mornings and some late evenings to try and get our program back together. So we're hopefully going to get out and do some recreation either later in the summer or in the fall. And then we've just been working on new products too. We launched those JK and JL license plate relocates, so like mounted up on the spare tire yesterday. We needed them for the JL when we came out with the JL bumpers because the plate is mounted to the bumper itself on the factory. So I think a lot of people grab an aftermarket bumper, put it on, and then go, fuck, what am I doing with the plate? There's no solution for this. So that's why I came up with that guy. But then through the development of it, it was kind of funny how many people asked for it for the JK2. I guess they just want that look of making it center mounted, maybe clean up their tub a little bit, or maybe they've ripped the stock mount off wheeling, like hooked it on a tree. I've seen that shit. So yeah, that's kind of what's new and what we've been picking away at.
Nice, right on. Yeah, I've seen some of those new products coming out. They're pretty awesome. Seen some of the CAD drawings too for some of the things coming out too. That looks pretty good. I think they're out now, right? The side steps or the rock rails or.
Yeah, so the first set got fit up by Todd at Solo Jeeper there on his JK. So I just got to see them, get some actual pics and feedback, see if we want to make any tweaks or if they're production ready. But yeah, once I connect with him, that project will be a go and we'll be ready to rock.
Awesome. Very cool. Ryan, how about yourself? What's happening at Combat?
We're going to just refitting our JK inner fender liners. So kind of just reshaping them by hand right now, just kind of fitting them up, and then we got some changes for them. We're going to change out the mesh, and this is kind of, we showed it before, but these will be for our tire deletes, but we're going to use the same stainless mesh and probably offer paintable backings for this too in the different colors, so it'll be the same as the tire delete. So you get to that point, you can match your tire delete, and you could match your inner fender liner. And so just a couple of changes on that product. We had it out for the year, and a couple of things that we wanted to change, and then still pretending to work on my JL. So I'm hoping to get that done, and then just around off-road addiction, just been cleaning up and cleaning our compound and messing around that way. Kind of semi-boring stuff that way, but stuff you got to do to keep the thing rolling.
Yeah, for sure. Right on. Yeah. No, I hear you. We actually had our relaunch there on the weekend, and same thing. I guess people are just home and bored because we just got slammed, which was amazing. Don't get me wrong, but we were just finished cleaning up basically the orders today, which is 3 days after the weekend. 4 days after the weekend. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. So good to hear everyone's keeping busy in this craziness. But I guess we are emerging. I'm sort of watching all the people in parts of the U.S. with a little bit of envy that are, they're getting out quite often, and YouTube's been a really good friend lately for for living vicariously through other people. So awesome.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, well, so today I think we're going to do first of a two-part. Will end up being, I think, two parts because we have a lot to cover between lift kits and tires. It's obviously something we all hear all of the time. It gets posted to social media about every, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. What size wheel can I put with a stock lift, or what sort of lift do I need if I want to run a 35, etc. So with that being said, let's tackle the idea of the lift, and let's start with lift kit versus leveling kit. Ryan, you wrote an article about this a little while ago, and I understand that people typically don't use the leveling kit as much in Jeeps, but why don't you just sort of maybe describe the two, and when someone might use one or the other?
Okay. Yeah, we see it more in pickup trucks, obviously. So they're going to have that forward rake from the factory. And what it does is a level kit, even if it's a small, it's still a lift kit if you're doing front and back. So if you just want a level kit, it usually just means you're just putting something in the front just to bring up the vehicle level. They do offer them for all the platforms, like not wide. Well, I guess maybe I don't even know if they do YJ anymore, but they do have TJ through to JL for a leveler. The customers we find that would want that would be someone who didn't want a lift kit, like some of the overlanding guys. They'll weigh down the front end. They still may want a nice bumper and a winch and some lights, and they're adding all that weight, but they don't want a lot of ground clearance. They're not looking to, conquer any giant obstacles. So they just want to bring it back up to level, because once they put that weight on, they're getting that front squat. So they may just want that 1.25 inch, 1.5 1.75 just level in the front. They don't care about the back. Some of the guys overload the back too, and then you get into maybe a really small lift, but that's pretty much when you say level, you're talking about the front. And if you want a lift kit would be front and rear. That's kind of what it would be, to be honest. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. And then so understanding that most people, it probably makes the most sense, at least for people in the Jeep community, to just go with a small lift as opposed to a leveling kit. Like maybe they've been from the trucking world and someone says, hey, we need a leveling kit. But by the time you go in and actually sort of figure out what you need, you're walking out with a lift, correct?
And some people, the common question is, because they'll bring in, let's say, I don't even know, I can't remember if the Jeep's got a bit of a forward rake or not. It probably does, but it's not as predominant as a truck. But they're like, oh, does the kit level out my vehicle or my Jeep? Yeah, it does. 99.9% of the time, everyone I've ever done, it will level it. So it's not like you're going to go like this and then go like this. The kits are engineered to be level. So if you want a lift kit for your Jeep and you think it's still forward raked from factory, don't worry. When you get the kit, it's going to be nice and level. So if it's just a bit of maybe a little miscommunication here and there, but so really don't worry about it. Any machine you put a lift kit on will sit level.
Okay, perfect. All right, so when we're talking about lift kits, then there's a few different. And why don't we start with the entry level, right? So the boost kit, if you will. Tim, what and we sort of discussed this last week, and maybe we can rehash it, but I was personally saying that with the JL, I think to start with, we were going to go with just a 2-inch. I think actually is the Dyno lift kit, or even the Mopar lift kit with the Fox shocks. But the three of us discussing, we thought maybe a budget boost is all we need. Can you sort of explain like the budget boost, maybe some of the pros and cons and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so pros is definitely going to be cost. Usually these kits are extremely affordable and definitely on the entry-level side of things price-wise. Another pro would be you're going to maintain, you can look at this as a pro or con, but pro-wise, you're going to maintain your factory springs and you're going to maintain your factory shocks. So if you've got a newer vehicle and it's got a good shock package on it from the factory, like I find the shock package from Fox on that Gladiator I just grabbed is phenomenal. So if you look at doing a budget boost, it's just going to be some spacers that go between the coil mounting and the spring, and hopefully shock relocation brackets. I really like the kits that come with those. I know Ryan at Combat does that. If you look at all his kits, it's a spacer and a shock relocation. So everything keeps in the same range of travel, which is the proper way to do it. There's a lot of kits that come out there and they're just spacers. If you're never going to wheel and you have no Concerns about overextending the shock, that might be a good option for you, but in my opinion, I would do a kit that's at least spacers and shock relocation. I think that's the proper way to go about doing it.
Okay, perfect. And the spacers is what, just like 1 or 2 inch typically, or
I typically see 1.5 to 2.5. 2 inches is the most common for sure. I've seen some companies start doing 3 inch now. I personally don't love that idea. I think when we're going to that height, we should be looking at a new spring, because there's a lot of great aftermarket springs out there now that are dual rate and whatnot. But yeah, 2 inch is going to be the most common. So if you want some more clearance for a larger tire, a 2 inch budget boost kit's an awesome option. Like Ryan was saying with the level kits, I noticed when looking at some of the newer JL Gladiator stuff, there's some kits out there that'll be, say, a 2 inch in the front and an inch 3/4 in the rear, just to try and level it out and take some of that factor rake out of it, if that's your personal preference. So yeah, if you want a good, cheap, easy way to get into the game and lift your vehicle and see if you like that lifestyle and the ride and whatnot, then yeah, these spacer budget boost kits are a great way to get started.
okay, awesome. And Ryan, actually, did you ran? And speaking of that, we might as well do the product of the week while we're at it. I think the product of the week is going to be the Combat lift kit. And you ran that right on your JL?
Yeah, we ran it all last year, and we took it all through the States, and we had it on the 2018 JL Rubicon, and then we had it on 37s, and we did a fender chop kit just to give us some more space, but it worked just fine if you don't touch the fenders on 37s. We just wanted to articulate a little more. We're kind of just testing the boundaries of it. There's difference in just different materials, right? That they make the levelers, or not levelers too, totally. But like a budget boost. So like ours are 6061 aluminum, and they're hard coat anodized, like military grade anodized, and they'll just last forever, right? You'd have a real hard time knocking the coating off those, so they're corrosion resistant. You know what I mean? And you get into the other ones, like the poly ones, like they're soft, and then if you get any like weather on them, you know what I mean, you change different elements, they'll dry out and they'll deform a little bit over time. So it really depends on, our kits are a bunch more money than the poly ones, or than like a plastic. Like I've seen plastic ones, which are hilarious. I don't know the actual like polymer, the grade of it, or what they actually use, but there's some like some strange little guys. And then you have some really mild steel kits that are like just welded together. I've seen slot and tab welded ones, which are all right in the sense where at least they're locate, but I've seen ones that are just pooped on. So you got to watch that for quality. Yeah, you can get a lift kit for $79, but do you put a $79 lift kit on a $70,000 truck? I just think it's ridiculous, right? But yeah, go from there. And then yeah, you just have one that, like Tim was saying before, you just get a level or a little boost, but nothing to relocate your shock. So you've eliminated that travel and the shock, right? Or like you go down too far and you're going to tear that shock right out. You know what I mean? Like the rod right out of the body, if you lose enough travel. So that's why we have a whole kit, and it works well. And the thing we did, which most people do like frame side space for the rears on the JL and JK. We did axle side, just to change up a little bit, and it's kind of fun. You can see it under the truck, right? So
that's cool.
That's kind of what we did, and we tested it pretty good. Like we figured it out on math, and then we decided we put in real world application. I wasn't nice to it by any stretch, so I was looking to try and pop a spring out, like just because obviously I wouldn't want a customer to do that. So we were not successful in popping the spring out, so we were successful in the kit design. So we're pretty happy with that. I don't know where it is. I can probably wheel it over.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. I was going to say, tell us what's in it, but I guess you can just show us.
So it's kind of above there.
Okay, there you go.
That's kind of the idea, right? So you got holding the fancy thing. So that's going to be your top side spacer, like your front. And then this is the rear, and that captures the spring. And then this will capture the spring, and then this is a JK one. So that's going to be your upper shock spacer. And then this is your lower shock spacer on the front. So rear goes on the top, front goes on the bottom. These go on the top on the front, and these go on the bottom on the rear. So it's kind of like a zigzag.
Got it. Yeah. And is this something, do you typically see, you can basically, someone can order it online and then sort of install it in their driveway in an afternoon, or how does that sort of look?
Yeah, you definitely could. There's no there's no cutting, no welding. It's really, if you're handy and you're experienced with nuts and bolts, it is all just nuts and bolts. The only thing you want to do is you want to take it for an alignment. You know what I mean? So have a reputable shop realign it. Don't drive for a week and then decide to go for alignment. You want to just set that toe back up. If you really want to do in the driveway and get fancy, you can make some lines and some chalk and some string, and you could reset your toe and then drive it. And then the top, you could, straighten your steering wheel. That's almost all you're going to do with a solid axle Jeep, anyways. And there won't be much caster adjustment there. Like, it won't take it out enough where you'd probably have to touch the caster. So, yeah, you could definitely do it you could do it all at home if you're brave enough. At the very least, you could do it all at home and then go get it and just stick it on a line machine. But yeah, it's pretty easy for sure.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think if we don't have one, we'll have one soon. We'll do an install video on that. Maybe that can help people if they want to try and do it at home, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we could definitely do that.
All right, cool. So Tim, tell me, that's like I don't know what the term is, but if we go to like a budget boost, but on a spring side of things, how does that differentiate between just the spacer version when we start getting into different springs and what have you?
I would say once we break that 3-inch point, that's when we'd be looking at doing new springs. So then you're going to find 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5. You're going to find every height. But when we get into these kits, like Ryan mentioned a minute ago, we're probably going to want adjustable control arms to get our caster back into spec in the front end and get our pinion angle situated properly in the rear. And we're going to be looking at drive shafts. So to me, that's really the cusp for where things are going to snowball quick. And you really got to set a real budget for yourself. Obviously, you want to get the best parts you can within that budget, and you want to do a lot of research, whether that's online, trusting some Facebookers. I mean, I would definitely vet some people and make sure they're legit and they've done it themselves, or just call a reputable shop and get that information. Because at this point, this is when the market gets a little silly, and you'll see 4-inch kits that are nothing more than springs and shocks, but they don't have any control arms. They don't have any provision for drive shaft modifications. To me, they're coming up short. So I get a lot of guys that
track bars too, right?
Bars, exactly. Sway bar links. So this is really when the ball starts rolling, and you're going to need a lot of parts. So I feel bad for people that buy a box kit like that, thinking, okay, I saved up my hard-earned money. I'm going to throw in that lift kit, and this is everything I need. And cost-wise, it can be a quarter of what you need. So you really got to start doing your research at this point and see what all is required.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, but it'd be staying in the driveway. You wouldn't be able to drive it anywhere.
Right. Fair. Yeah. Well, and so that's the thing. I mean, and that's when you go, you're right. You see like there's a 3-inch lift kit that's $350, and there's a 3-inch lift kit that's $2,000. And I think for most people, they're like, why would I spend the extra money? But maybe we could zoom in a little bit on a couple of things you mentioned there. So one would be control arms.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit more. Like, how does that affect it? Like, why by lifting it do we need to have adjustable control arms?
So as you've lifted the vehicle in height, you've changed basically the relation of the mounting points for your control arm on the axle and the frame. So you've basically taken a control arm that they've tried to design to be relatively flat, or as close to flat as possible from the factory, and you've put it on an angle. So now you've pulled in your wheelbase a little bit, and the worst byproduct of this in the front is your caster angle's out of whack. So a lot of people say they got death wobble or the vehicle tracks funny. It's because your caster's out of spec. So generally on a solid axle Jeep, you need between 5 and 7 degrees of positive caster, and that's if you're looking at the knuckle sideways, the top ball joint's going to be aimed towards the rear of the vehicle. So if you're throwing a bunch of lift height and the control arm pulls it back, now you could be, instead of being at 5 to 7, you could be closer to zero, you could actually be a negative caster. That's going to track like absolute shit down the road. You're not going to be happy driving that. If you let a friend drive it, they'd say, oh my God, this is why no one wants to drive a lifted Jeep. And I mean, it's not the lifted Jeep's fault by any means. You just didn't put in all the necessary components. So those adjustable control arms allow you to adjust it properly, get your caster angle right, get your pinion angle right in the rear. The other thing they do is they have a flex joint on them. There's a lot of good ones out there on the market. So we could be talking like a Johnny joint, a Lifetime Heim's a product we make, a standard Heim joint. It's endless. It's limitless. I mean, we can do an episode on those alone. But those joints allow the control arms to pivot and articulate further, whereas the stock bushings, a stock bushing will last forever. Like that Clevite's extremely durable, but it's tough on stuff. So factory brackets aren't the strongest. Now we start articulating that axle. That bushing's putting a lot of load on your axle brackets, whereas if you add an aftermarket arm in there with a flex joint, it's going to allow it to pivot more freely and relieve some of that bind. So, yeah, control arms are a big one, and a lot of kits don't come with them because they're trying to hook you on that cheap price out of the box. But if you're going 3-inch or greater, I would plan on them in there right away or in the immediate future. It's something you're going to want to tackle.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. And then just to sort of, again, just to make sure that everyone sort of gets the terminology caster, because
I grabbed the flex joint.
Oh, there you go.
I just grabbed one quick. But so Tim was saying, so you're in the bracket, and if that wasn't flexible, you'd be just prying on whatever resistance is in the bushing. So it's only going to take so much, and then all that load, you're still loading all that weight down. So you're pulling on the bracket, but this is like pretty easy. I can do this with my hand, right? So if you're articulating, and it has so many degrees of, 20 degrees or whatever the turn is, like there's a few different abilities of that flex joint, but you just so much easier on all your components. So that's kind of just a quick visual. And then obviously these are misalignment spacers, so I can put the small joint in in an axle bracket, right? And then like we were talking about, like Tim sells all this stuff. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. Just in case someone didn't really know, I just figured I'd just
for sure. And so the stock has bushing, right? It doesn't move like that.
The stock would be basically this dimension, right? Like the whole width as a cylinder with a piece of rubber in the middle, for lack of a better term, and it'd have a sleeve through the center, and you'd bolt that, and all you would get, you would just get the deflection on the bushing strength. You know what I mean? So this would be all filled with the steel and the thread, right? And then so whatever you could twist inside the rubber would be your flex in the joint, where these are made for it, right?
Gotcha. So that's the strain that Tim was talking about, because
it
obviously isn't made to move.
Yeah, the downside to these is, keeping them clean and keeping them alive. Like once that wiper gets eaten out, by dirt and crud and stuff, you're going to get some play, right? So you're going to get some control arm play. Where like Tim was saying, the Clevite stuff designed for like OEM, long-term road use driving, right? So you got to sacrifice maintenance, for performance in a sense, right? Just like anything high performance, like guy's got a cool drag car that does 9 seconds, but the guy, or 5 seconds, or whatever they do, he tears that motor down every pass. Or somebody that's really hyped up tears that motor down every week or weekend, right? Like, whereas the guy that can do 14 seconds in his Honda Civic or whatever never tears that motor down. He forgets to change the oil, and the stupid thing still goes like a little watch. You know what I mean? It goes 600,000 Ks. So that's kind of where you're at. You kind of got to know what you want to do, and then where you invest your money, right? And the beauty of these things, like they range right from $20 to like probably like $75. So it'll add up all around, but that's it. That's kind of what the deal is with these guys, anyways.
Got it. Okay. So are we saying, was it 3.5? If you're getting to that size and above, you want to get into like the kits that come with more than just, just the spring or what have you?
Yeah, I think 3+ inches of lift is when we're going to be looking at mixing in some of these other components. So there's nothing wrong with buying a cheaper kit and buying the control arms, track bars and whatnot separately, and like kind of build your own lift a la carte. I mean, back in the day, it used to be called the Franken lift. You'd see a lot of it on like YJs and TJs. Guys would buy a mixed match of parts, but with the JK and JL, there are more complete kits out there, and sometimes it's best to mix and match between different vendors. You might like a spring and shock option that someone offers, but you might like the features and benefits of someone else's control arms and track bars, really do your research on each component. You don't have to buy the whole kit from one vendor. If you think someone else has a better fit for you, mix and match. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, totally. We did that with the JK even. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we used Bilstein 5100s. We put rock crawler 4.5-inch compressive rate coils in it. And then we knew we were getting some other stuff going on. So I actually left the original. We put a rough country 3.5-inch in it when we first got it in 2012 because it was like a dealer display model. So, hey, this is what it looks like. This is what you get for X. And most people that bought right out of the dealership like that, just no maintenance, drivability. So I put 176,000 kilometers on a set of rough country lower control arms. I mean, on 40s even. You know what I mean? Like, hilarious. And we just took them out when we put that Beltec kit in, all adjustable arms, right? So, and all like one end's Bush, one end's got a Heim, right? So we're dying to try that out. But yeah, you can definitely do that. Like the thing I think that's tough is just the knowledge, right? You know, that's why it's nice to find some people that have done it, or, you know, obviously you can, now that we have the show, you can definitely chime into us and we'll plan to happy to steer you in the right direction, you know, for what components that we've used that work good and at different budget levels, right? So that's no problem.
Sure.
But yeah, and then you just got to watch if you join a Jeep club, like if somebody's saying he's hot shit or something, like take a drive in his Jeep or drive his Jeep. If it drives good and everything looks good and it works good, then yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing. But if he's like, yeah, this is what you got to do, and you drive it, and it, you know, then clearly that guy is fucking retarded, right? So.
Yeah, well, you know, I think that's a really good point. You know, feel free to reach out. We can definitely help. But so we talked about control arms, and Ryan, you mentioned the track bars. So maybe we could just zoom in on that a little bit. So you know, as obviously as we lift it on the front end, we need the track bars or what have you, so we can keep the wheels properly centered in the wheel wells. But the track bar,
it's more left to right. So like, let's say that this is the Jeep body, and then or the chassis, and this is the Jeep axle, right? So if this is, let's say this is square, and it's at this height. So now that I've lifted it, it acts like a Z. So it'll go like this. As the higher we go, the more the axle drops out, right? So what we got to do is, so let's say this is our next height. Let's say that's 3.5 inches. We need a track bar to bring this over back to square, right? And they attach at the frame and the axle, right? So some kits will go and have you just drill a hole and move that over. Some kits will have a bolt-on bracket that edges over the track bar. You know what I mean? So they're kind of just going by roughly this will work. I mean, it's engineered, like they definitely put some time into it, but that not all vehicles are built the same either from the factory, right? So you're going to get a little variance. So if you really want to dial it in for the track left or right, you're going to want an adjustable track bar. So you want something that, you know, it's easy. It's just a track bar, but it's going to have probably a Heim joint, kind of similar to this one with misaligned spaces on one end, potentially a bushing on the other. Some of them have Heims and they're left and right. And you can basically just put on a line machine and spin the bar and move the axle over until you get into the green. You know what I mean? Same with the rear too. It's the same principle, right? It's 4 links and a track bar, and like TJs, JKs, JLs, basically all 4 link. So 4 control arms, 2 upper, 2 lower, and a track bar, right? So, and then we can get into like a billion other, you know, configurations of what to do. Like we're making a 3 link for the JL, and we're still keeping track bars, obviously, but you can get a triangulated 4 link. Like it's a bit of a rabbit hole to digest all at once.
Sure.
But basically, simply, you've done this, it's moved over, you've got to reposition this. And then Tim was saying, same difference. So if I put my axle in, so it's at this height, as you lift it, the axle's going to swing back, so that changes all this other geometry. So when we get to here, we want to be able to push it forward, you know, and that's where you're going to get that adjustability. So you can do it with a tape measure and measure it out. And then we have a line machine here, so we always realign it. But so you'd want the axle to be the right caster, and then you'd want it square to the rear. And with all that ability, you'd be able to dial it in perfect, right?
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Tim, do we put a track bar on what's it called, the spacer lift, or are we talking like once we get to a certain height?
No. Generally with a spacer lift, that you've moved up to 2.5 inches, that axle is going to sit out probably by 3/8. I mean, if you got an eagle eye, you can probably notice that. Truthfully, most people wouldn't pick up on that, and it's not going to affect your ride because I mean, front to back, there'll be a very little. And if you look, most aftermarket track bars don't accommodate 2 or less lift. Most of them will be 2+, 3+, and whatnot. So no, generally with the spacer lift, you don't need adjustable track bars. If you could fit one in there and you want it for the beef, because obviously it's going to generally be a bigger aftermarket. An aftermarket component's going to be bigger, stronger, more durable. If you want to stuff that in there, there's nothing wrong. Like that's being super complete. But for the most part, no, you're not going to need that out of the gate with just a spacer lift.
All right, cool. Yeah, right on. Yeah, I have. I think I mentioned before. I have just a 3-inch. I went with the budget. I think it was just the. It's what did I say it was Pro Comp. I think it was, and it was great. It performed better than expected when I first got it. But sure enough, when you take a look at it, it's a good inch. My wheels are a good inch to the right, I guess, as it goes higher. And it's starting to wear, right? It's been a couple of years now, and it's getting bumpier. It's getting, like we were in a parking lot yesterday, and I'm like, I feel like we're off-roading, like we're bouncing around pretty good. So I think that's another thing maybe to consider. And a question I want to ask you both is, again, I went with it because it was less expensive. I think it cost me like $400, and it was so good when I first got it, no problems at all. But like I say, over time, and I wheeled with it, and it did what it was supposed to do. But what's your experience when it comes to that? Is that you typically get what you pay for when it comes to lifts and kits and all those fun things?
Yeah, they got to make them a certain price, so they're gonna cut some corners, and they're gonna probably offer you options. Like I'm really surprised if your track's out an inch. You know what I mean? Like there should be there's people that install stuff that shouldn't too, right? So maybe they looked at this weird looking bracket and it's like, oh, I don't know where that goes, and just throw it away because there should be a bracket or relocate to at least roughly shift that. So it would definitely bolt in the spot where your track bar bolt on your axle, and then it would have another hole, maybe let's say an inch or 3/4 inch away, and you can put your factory track bar back in, and that should realign it more than enough, most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So if that's missing in your Jeep, that's possible.
Yeah, it's definitely missing. Yeah, well, because Todd actually from Solo Jeep, he eyeballed it. He was just actually, I don't know what he was doing under there, but he just basically eyeballed it and was like, hey, yeah, check it out. And sure enough, it's about an inch.
Wow, yeah, so that's an easy fix, really, just adjustable track bar if you don't have the bracket, because it'll just go in the OEM holes, and you just got to go take it for another alignment. All the bumping and banging, that could be like shock seals like leaked out, or it could be bushings. Like if it's a Procom kit, I find their bushings are really like the worst bushing ever that I've ever seen, to be honest, and they deteriorate pretty rapidly. That could be part of your challenge too, right, where your little bumps are not getting absorbed and the shock's not functioning properly because it's moving in its position because there's no bushings, right? So, sure. And if there's any creaks or bangs and stuff like that, I would definitely check out shock bushings first. It'd be an easy one to check out.
Okay, awesome. So when we start getting into things like 6-inch lifts, for example, and then we're getting to long arm and what have you, are we talking like considerable amount of difference between just a basic 3-inch lift and once you're getting up to like 6-7 inches? Tim?
Yeah, that just goes back to with a long arm lift, basically you're going to cut all the factory side brackets off that chassis. So I mean, we're talking an extensive install. Generally welding's required. Some of the kits are bolt-in. Bolting kits make some sacrifices to do so, but they allow someone to bolt that in the driveway without having a weld. So it's okay. But the intention of them is to lengthen the control arm. So it's basically sitting at a flatter angle, and it's going to be closer back to how the factory intended it. If that arm's flat, that vehicle is going to ride much smoother. And the longer arms also allow the axle to articulate or flex further. And we're definitely going to be into flex joints like Ryan showed earlier and I mentioned. But yeah, some people want to do a long arm on like a 3-inch. That flatter control arm will make a huge difference in your ride quality. Like you'd be blown away by the difference. So it's not for everyone because it's a huge step up in terms of complexity of install, cost of install, and then definitely the cost of the parts. I mean, if you look at the sum of a long arm kit, lay all those parts out in a photo versus the sum of a budget boost or like an entry level lift kit like that Pro Comp you got, well, you can visually see there's a ton more components in the long arm kit. There's no wonder it can be up to 10 times the cost easily, but it's
10
really
times the ride though.
Yes, for sure.
Oh,
So,
no comparison. Yeah.
If you can spring for it, 100% go for it. You're not going to be disappointed whatsoever. But if that doesn't fit your budget and you'd rather get out in the next year, get a cheaper kit and be willing to reinvest in the future and upgrade down the road.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. If you're looking to go big and you want to go 40s 6-inch, but you've got a $2,000 budget, you probably not the way to go, right? Probably start with
you're
something
gonna have to
smaller.
finance the other half.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, plus I suspect that then even if you were to get one in the short term, then you're gonna have to replace things in the long term, right?
It's all you, man. It's just the evolution of you at the same time as an individual. You know what I mean? Like, or you're impatient. Like I'm crazy impatient, right? So, I mean, I would probably just get something so I got fun with it, and then work on it, and then if I really liked it, I would just go and go and go. And then, there's a resale market. There's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, you're gonna lose money, but it's just that old saying that you got to pay to play, and it's kind of where you're at, And that's it. Really, there's not much more to it. But yeah, like Tim was saying, like if you've never driven like a correctly built long arm kit, you're missing out. I mean, I had my older 2-door JK. Yeah, it was JK. We had a 3-link long arm in it, and I would drive like 5 hours. It had 40s, and you're just plush, right? It just. Nothing, no feedback in the wheel. It was just like driving a car, aside for some tire noise, but I'm used to that. But yeah, versus like something with a big steep angle, right? Like once you lift it, you're gonna get all that road feedback. You hit a bump, it's gonna just like punch yourself in the face. You know what I mean? You almost gotta tape your hands to the wheel. So, huge difference, man. So, definitely expensive, and like that's why it's nice to have conversations with customers here that way and let them know what it is. But I've never had anyone ever in like a decade and a half invest in a long arm and go, man, I wish I didn't do that. I've not once, you know what I mean? But that being said, they're probably 100 to 1, you know what I mean, in a sense for customers, because it is a big investment. You have to really either have that disposable cash or really, really, really want that, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you think you're going to do it. Don't even, if it's like, yeah, fuck it, I got the money. You'll never regret it.
Okay, awesome. And then what about, so if we start getting into like suspension lifts where it's, we're sort of not just switching out springs and what have you. Same thing. Is there a certain height that we start that at, or is it just, I mean, and I suspect it probably has to do with what platform you're on, right? Like the TJ versus the JK versus the JL. Yeah,
it's like kind of a tire size. Like, what do you want? Like, if there's a size you want to run, we kind of build it from there. Or like, really, like people are all about a lot of looks too, right? Because you gotta like what you have, right? So if you're like, hey, I really like this look, and then we kind of just explain to you what that look is, and then what that look costs, and then what that look can do. You know what I mean? And then you kind of just we help you make those decisions from there. But yeah, you can be like, hey, you can ask all the questions. I don't know, like if you're going to run with a club and everybody's running 37s, you probably don't want to go out with 33s. You're going to be super irritated, and they're going to go on trails and stuff that you're going to be like, fuck, how do I do this, right? Or you're going to try and follow guys, and they're just going through, right? Or if everyone's on 40s, and you're like, hey, man, all my friends are on 40s, and I want to go play, like, you can get away with 37s for sure. You know what I mean? Or you just go to 40s. Like, there's kind of that. Or you just like, hey, I only got, 8 feet or 6'9" in my garage, but I really want my Jeep to be cool. Hey, what can we do? Well, everyone has their individual challenges, right? Mm-hmm. And like some people, we have customers that work downtown Toronto or whatever, and they got to get in the work parking garage, but they still want to have fun, right? So yeah, that's kind of it's really individual. But if you're like, hey, I really want 37s and I got $5,000, or hey, I want 37s and I got $2,000, or then we kind of just go, hey, well, this is the best for that. You know what I mean? Or hey, you know what? Honestly, maybe you can do 35s and we can stretch that out to 2,500 and we can get a few things done. You know, it's just a bunch of nice conversations, just kind of getting to know everybody and knowing what they want. That's really all it is, just making friends and, you know, getting people what they need, right? So
Sure.
And that's different, almost different for everyone. Even though there's a lot of cookie cutter kits, and we do use those at the same time, they're all for micro different reasons for each person.
Okay, fair enough. No, that makes sense. I'm going to put you guys on the spot now. Tim, experience with a particular lift kit that you love. Do you have one?
In terms of brand?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. A couple would be when I got my TJ back in 2000. I did a 4.5-inch Rubicon Express kit. Those things were all the rage. They called them like a Superflex kit.
Right.
Bushings everywhere. That kit lasted me for years. And yeah, I didn't really have any problems. I had to replace the bushings a couple times. But I mean, like Ryan mentioned, with anything custom or high performance, there's going to be more maintenance involved. If you lift your Jeep and it's all aftermarket parts, those parts are being stressed in different ways that factory parts were never intended to. So yeah, you are going to have to increase the maintenance. But yeah, that kit kicked ass. Beyond that, we put in our TMR Customs 3 and 4 link kits in that same Jeep when we did 1-tons and 40s. Like Ryan said, going a long arm, you're never going to regret it. If you can afford it, 100% spring for that. But yeah, you can really feel the difference. And then in the JK we built last year, we did like a 3.5-inch spring, kit, bypass shock. That Jeep works great too. So there's lots of different ways to skin it, but just try and stick with quality parts if you can. The more money you can spend, the better it's going to work, flat out. It's definitely a pay-to-play sport. My attitude on lots of this stuff is just cry once, buy once. Like, get the good stuff right off the hop. You are not gonna regret it whatsoever. And not having to buy 2 lift kits is definitely nice.
All right, cool. How about Ryan? I know you've installed 1 billion of these things. So any that you recommend, or you've had personal experience with that work really well?
Yeah, well, I have a ton of different recommendations, and we had different ones for different platforms that we like. But just so we're not here for an hour talking about that, I basically my favorite kit that I used out of the box was definitely like the long arm from Rock Crawler for we had a 2010 two-door on 40s, and we used theirs. We didn't do anything else but use their stuff. It was a complete kit. It's definitely a pricey kit. I think they're like a $4,000 range fancy kit. I can't remember. They have like 90 different levels of kit. Like when you look on their page, it's almost exhausting. Not as bad as TerraFlex, the site, but definitely I really enjoyed that kit. It worked really well. The other kit that I really like from more of an entry-level, basic, zero maintenance, but you can still go weekend in. You can do most of the trails, period. We did the Rough Country 3.5-inch kit, and I put like 176,000 Ks on the bushings. I probably put 120,000 Ks on, or maybe more, 130,000 Ks on the springs and the shocks, even, and then like it did spend a lot of time the first 2 or 3 years just being like a dealer demo, in the sense where we just used it as an outside sales tool, and we drove it around like a normal vehicle. And then probably 3 or 4 years after that, we started taking it and using it for 101s and different trail events and stuff like that. And we didn't beat the crap out of it, but we definitely did all those courses, and it held up. So, and that kit's like a maybe $700-800 kit. You'd have to get installed, obviously, but I thought the kit was great. You know what I mean? People do Vash Rough Country, but like when I started in like 04 up to now, like they continuously improve their products, and they definitely have products I don't like. I don't like their leveler kits for pickups. You know what I mean? But I do enjoy a few kits. I don't like their rebuildable joints. I don't like their struts, but I like a lot of other stuff. I really like their 4-inch Ram kits, and like there's a lot of good stuff for the money, but for sure. And like I said, that's why we have different vendors, and we use them for different types and makes and models. But the 2 Jeep ones for sure. I like that 3.5, and I like the Rock Crawler And it was, I think I did a 3.5 2, a 3.5 long arm. I don't know what they call it. I want to say X Factor, but I don't know. They got so many fucking names.
Cool. Yeah. No, we'll see if we can find it and link it down below.
None of this is pre-scheduled, right? We don't research it and write little notes. Like this is all coming right.
That's
Paul
right.
asks us a question, we got to figure out the answer. No one's here to help us. It's just me and these T-shirts, and there's a tire back there, and that's it. That's all I got.
You don't have someone like a little guy off to the side feeding you internet?
Nothing in my ears. There's no place. It's just us.
Nice.
I was gonna ask Facebook, but then he just ended up telling you wrong information.
That's right,
good.
right? Yeah, you're just typing what size lift can I get with my stock? Yeah. All right.
Ford Taurus says 72.4 is going to give you a 12-inch lift and the coilovers and all that stuff.
Yes, the coilover. I see coilovers is huge right now. Like everyone's talking about coilovers. Maybe quickly, just tell us what's a coilover and how does it differ from your regular suspension?
Tim's got lots of coilovers.
For sure. So a coilover shock is basically, look at it like it's your shock and spring in one. So basically the shock's going to be the interior body, and then it's going to be wrapped in a spring on the outside. And generally they're dual rate, so you're going to have a lighter spring on top, a heavier spring on the bottom. I mean, we can go in an episode about that. But yes, there's a lot of coilover kits. There's some awesome stuff that's been engineered properly. It's going to ride nice. There's some crap where it's just an off-the-box coilover, and that's not going to be the best. What I will say is they require a much higher level of maintenance and care. So if you want simple, drive your Jeep all the time, not be under it, wrenching all the time, or not be taking it to a shop to have work done, I don't think I would look at those. If you want top-notch off-road performance, the most flex and articulation, and best wheel travel possible, then yeah, you probably want to look at a coilover. If you live in the salt or rust belt, anywhere in the Northeast where they put salt and brine on the roads, my personal opinion is don't even fucking think about it. I think it's a terrible move. You are going to be so disappointed in the money you spent after one winter.
1 week.
1 week, yeah. Honestly, 1 week of winter exposure is going to kill it. The bodies will rust because the spring and slider just up against them. They're going to get debris in that slider that's going to increase the abrasion. The paint will flake off. The springs like no tomorrow. To me, those are meant for SoCal, Arizona, Nevada, states where it's dry all year. Yeah, 100%. Go ahead and run it. I've got coilovers on some of my own project vehicles, but they're summer unit only. I would not think of putting them out in the shit because for what you spend on a high performance suspension, winter is going to murder it. If you want to go for it, go for it. I mean, I'm not going to tell anyone to not do what they want. I mean, it's your vehicle, it's your freedom. But if you live in the Rust Belt and you daily your vehicle, stay far away from it. You're not going to be happy with the outcomes.
You got to take those out and apart and wax them.
Really?
And put back in and adjust them. So if you're not even that savvy, you know what I mean? It's insane. And I think a good thing with coilovers in a sense, they're a good space constraint challenge. If you have a challenge with space, that's a great reason. But all the Jeeps don't have a challenge with space. They're designed to do coil shock. So even though they look fucking cool, no question, man.
Yeah.
I drive coilovers all the time, but the amount of work, like Tim said, to keep them running prime and the money you invest, yeah, it's tough. I'm too lazy to honestly own coilovers.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It looks around here. It's so much. It looks great for 4 or 5 months. You have a winter, and then the spring. I put on a couple things there at the end of last year on the Jeep, and this spring it's all rusted to hell. It looks like shit. It's okay, now I got to go in, I got to take it all apart, I got to get all the rust off it, I got to, paint it, do whatever. And it's 6 months old, so I couldn't imagine. And then I don't remember, it's cheap crap that I got, but in terms of cost, it wasn't expensive, but spending the money on coilovers and then to see them rusting within a few months, break your heart.
Oh, yeah. I've seen it all the time because we get a lot of customers that buy them, even the out-of-the-box ones, like a Fox coilover for a Dodge Ram 2500. We put those in. It's $3,000 just for the brackets and the 2 shocks, the 2 coilovers. People run them in the winter oh, look at my stuff. I'm yeah, I told you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and Tacoma
lower-
customers too.
Yeah, like the lower shock mount, upper shock mounting, they generally take a spherical bearing, and that's designed to give you more articulation and movement. Whereas your traditional shock's gonna have a bushing, a quality bushing is gonna last you years. Those spherical bearings, one winter on their toes, now your coilover's rattling around. You can hear that, or you can feel that, and I mean it's a $20 bearing. That's not a big deal, but to replace that every winter, if you can do it yourself and you want to do it, go for it. If you got to take that to a shop every winter, I mean, I think you're gonna get sick of that. So I think they're absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Your vehicle is going to see winter exposure.
Okay, awesome. All right, so to sum it up, I think we're saying is, there's a lot of options when it comes to lifts. You probably need to do some research and then figure out what you want to do with it, how you're gonna, ride, whether you're taking it to the mall, you're taking it off road, you're gonna be a weekend warrior, and then as Ryan mentioned, you want to sort of, it depends on aesthetics as well, right? If you're hanging out with a bunch of guys running 40s and you're running 33s, you're gonna probably regret your decision on your lift almost immediately afterwards, right? So, so any questions, we're happy to help. We can definitely do some follow-up afterwards. Leave comments below, send us Instagram, tweet us, whatever. Find us somewhere, ask the question, we'll get it answered for you. Hey, one thing that I also see a lot of is the difference between the JK and the JL. So to get 35s on my JK, I basically had to get that 3-inch lift. I mean, there's other ways I could have gone, but more or less, it's suggested, I guess, that 35s run a 3-inch lift. Whereas on the JL, it being a Rubicon, I can do 37s on a 2-inch lift, is my understanding. So
Yep.
is that just that they're engineered differently, or is it just the kits are built differently? What's the discrepancy there? So if, for example, someone driving or just buys a JL, goes out and reads some of the forums about the JK, and they're going and getting like a 4-inch lift when they may not need it. Is it just the model difference, or Jeep sort of help people out, or what's that look like? Tim.
Yeah, you could just go back all the way back to YJTJ. XJs need a ton of lift. It's basically just wheel well clearance. Over time, these vehicles come with bigger tires from stock. I mean, a TJ used to come with a 30 as the biggest. Rubicon came out 31. You look at the JKs and JLs, it's even bigger. So wheel well clearance has basically opened up. If you look at the Rubicon and the JL, they're kind of a highline fender right from the factory. They've raised them up. Over if you look at the fender on a Sport. So yeah, over time, I feel less lift is definitely a thing. And a lot of stuff's trended that way. You hear like LCG a lot for low center of gravity. People don't want a sky high lift if you don't need it. My mantra's always been put as little lift as possible to clear your tires. So your point of if you're looking on a JK form, you take that information, apply it to your JL. That's not going to be the best route. You want to stick to your model. I've got some customers that were like early adopters of JKs, and they had a 6-inch lift on their TJ. So they throw a 6-inch on their JK, but 35s. And I mean, the thing looks like it's on stilts. It's horrible. I would be fucking dead driving it. It's awful. But I mean, so yeah, definitely stick to your model. And then even with the JL, definitely stick to Rubicon and other models. Like now, even your submodel matters because they're messing with fender heights and stuff. So yeah, you are totally right in that there's a trend to have less lift, and it's not to do with the engineering of the kits. It's just Jeep has opened up those factory wheel wells and given you more room to play with the bigger tire.
Right on. Okay, cool, awesome. All right, well, did I miss anything in any of my questions? Do you think we?
Do you mind asking what a mid arm is? Because just say like long arm, short arm. What's a mid arm? Because the mid arm word blows my fucking mind. I hate it.
All right, cool. Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Sure. So question. This has come up a couple times too. A mid arm. I definitely know what a short arm is, and I know what a long arm is. But Tim, what's a mid arm?
A mid arm essentially is just a good marketing term. Where it comes from is TJs have much shorter control arms than JKs or JLs did. So when you look at a JK control arm, even factory, and you put it next to a TJ, you're like, shit, this thing's a lot longer. But it's not quite a long arm. Let's call it a fucking mid arm. So there's lots of kits out there that like.
It's awesome.
I think it's terrible terminology. I like short arm or factory length arm. To me, that means anything that connects to the frame side mounting bracket and the axle side mounting bracket in the factory positions. To me, long arm means you've dusted those off, relocated, and put new brackets on the frames. So to me, the mid arm thing's fucking terrible. I mean, I get it from a marketing standpoint, but no, if you're buying a mid arm kit, but it connects to the factory control arm locations, it's a short arm. No two ways about it. There's short arms and long arms in my world.
Awesome. Okay, very good to know for sure. Okay, good.
Yeah,
It'll save someone too from being like, "Hey, I got this mid arm thing," and no one
they're
has
gonna
any
sticker
idea.
on their windshield just says mid arm.
You're right. That's it. We'll start selling those up on the site. Just mid arm. I love it.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious.
All right, awesome. Okay, cool. Well, we have a couple questions, and so the first one, Ryan, you've probably dealt with this. I imagine you hear this a lot. So, Mark here is asking, I have a 2017 JK, and he's looking to put in a lift kit. He wants to know if it's going to void his warranty.
Oh, basically, they really can't void your warranties. They're going to void the parts. So if you have an OEM spring and you take it out and throw it away, and then you put a rock crawler spring in there, and then you go to the dealership because you broke your rock crawler spring, they're not going to warranty the rock crawler spring. You're going to have to go through the manufacturer or whoever you bought it from. You know what I mean? So that's really the short answer. Yeah, that's it. I mean, they're just whatever parts you replace with an aftermarket source, and if they fail, you're going to have to go to the aftermarket source. Okay. You know, if your transmission blows up and you have a lift kit on it, they can't deny you the warranty. If you had some crazy circumstances and that is an issue, like a potential issue for you in your mind, a lot of companies will have their own warranty in place too, right? So like BDS has one, ProComp has one, and then you would go through them and then they would get that warranty on your behalf, right? So that's kind of really the short answer of it. So they shouldn't be able to if you get like, you know, a red flag for some weird reason and you do wreck something else like a transfer case or a motor or something like that, and they want to blame the lift kit. And if you think you're going to be like that kind of abusive, go to a company that has the aftermarket, like that aftermarket company that has that support. I know Rough Country has one too. There's a handful and more are jumping on board given that just like risk reversal.
Yep.
For the customer, right? So like, don't worry about it. Modify your brand new vehicle. You know, at Off-Road Addiction, we do all the new car dealers like in the whole province, and they're employing us every single day to lift brand new vehicles that aren't even owned by anyone, and they're all legit. I'm talking like all the vehicles, all the Jeeps, trucks, all across the board, all the models. So if it wasn't allowed, how would they even sell that to someone? You know what I mean? And I'm talking like hundreds of them. Yep. You know what I mean? So that's just some sales manager or some service guy that doesn't know what he's talking about, or maybe doesn't like the way you look or something, right? So there's some problem. And don't think you're stuck at your dealership where you purchased, because it is a factory warranty. So you can go and chat it up with anybody. And don't forget, what is it? You get more bees with honey or bears with honey than vinegar or some shit. You know what I mean? So don't be a dick. Just explain your case. But if you're not getting along with somebody, before you get too deep, just move on. Because, there's factory dealerships everywhere. You know what I mean? So it won't be too much of inconvenience, I'd hope, to drive to a different dealership. But, just build some good relationships. But like I said, if you're concerned, get a kit that has that extra support. And all you do is just fill out some paperwork and you're good to go for their warranty, right? So those are kind of like the way to go that way.
Yeah, no, I that was my experience as well. I think a lot of people they want to go with, say, the Mopar lift kit because it, quote unquote, comes with the factory warranty. It's installed by, in most cases, the dealership, and then, what I mean? It's that peace of mind, right?
It's another factory kickback for them too. Like obviously, Mopar, because we're on Mopar, they saw the power of the aftermarket. Obviously, they're always at SEMA. They're always putting on big shit when they're providing more and more products every year to kind of squeeze out the other aftermarket guys. But yeah, then they're giving kickbacks to the dealership. Hey, if you do 5 of those kits this month, you're going to get X, right? Mm-hmm. So then, and they want to steer away all their customers because they want to keep all the money to themselves. It's just a normal kind of human nature business kind of move, but a lot of the aftermarket kits are more cost effective, or you can get more for the equal amount of money. And even they perform better, really depending on what you want for performance. But, a lot of them would perform better. And there's a whole other intertwining nonsense because you got parts guys and service guys fighting the sales guys. So when the sales guys sell something, the parts guys want to buy it and sell it back to them. And then that comes out of the sales guys' commission. And you know what I mean? There's all kinds of back end stuff that's a pain. I don't understand why they structure dealerships where they fight amongst themselves under the umbrella, but they do. Definitely parts service and sales compete against each other that way. And sales guys like us that way because we're selling a more tailored product for a better price and there's more margin for them, on a business standpoint. So that's where our success comes in for servicing the dealerships. And a lot of the techs, don't like it. You know what I mean? They don't enjoy. They're not they're factory trained technicians for the factory challenges. They're not trained to do all this extra stuff and geometry and stuff. And a lot of the guys are flat rate. So, hey, you're getting paid 6 hours to do this job. If it takes you 8, you just lost 2. Yeah. What the hell, man? I just want to do a brake service on the, this thing because I can make an extra hour on the brake service. I don't want to be stuck doing this lift kit. And then challenges, not understanding the geometry, not understanding if there is a challenge. How do we go about it? You know what I mean? Like understand the math, whereas we do it every day. So in that standpoint, we can just service those specific customers much better. And we'll kind of run it here, but that's kind of the idea, like why it makes sense to use someone specialized and you still make money because obviously, dealerships make money. Yeah, they have to make money. You have to make money. I have to make money. Everyone has to make money because you can't do anything else. So
right.
That's just how it goes. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. So maybe we're saying, I think just in general, find someone you can trust, a local shop that has some experience with lift kits and Jeeps and what have you. And it's probably the best resource regardless, right? I mean, what I've found is everyone's super helpful, certainly willing to spend a few minutes and just explain it to you. And, the saying goes, if you're shit in a box, put a warranty on it, you're still buying a box of shit, right? So, it doesn't necessarily have to be a warranty-approved product, right? In that sense, and it's not going to void the rest of your warranty. So, as you mentioned, if, the transmission goes or what have you, it's still covered under your factory warranty. Amazing.
That being said, even even on a small scale for my business, like the retail business and the dealers, like out of the whole time, like 15 years, I've never had to even address one of those claims. And that's we're well over 10,000 vehicles in the whole time, right? So I've never had one where that instance has happened. I'm sure they've happened, but I think it's a real rare unicorn where you blow a tranny, you know what I mean? Like I've seen guys blow motors, right? But you sunk it. Like it's totally pretty evident you fucked yourself.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've never had another challenge, right? So I'm pretty happy. So I even say I'll just buy it, like just for risk reversal. I'll be like, hey, if they don't hold your warranty and you can't get it fixed, I'll just buy your Jeep.
Yeah, awesome.
This has never happened, and if it happens, I can buy one. I guess I gotta buy whatever.
Yeah, there you go. It's happening next week now.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so the next question is Tim. This gentleman says he wants to put a 6-inch long arm lift kit on his Jeep. It doesn't say what kind of Jeep, but I don't think it matters. Question is, do I need to upgrade my axle?
To me, axle's based on what you're doing with tire size and how you're gonna use that Jeep. 6-inch long arm like on any Jeep is a shit ton of lift. I can't see needing that much height, so you might want to look at addressing that to begin with. But again, that tire size is really gonna, to me, dictate axle usage. Like I tell people, stock axles are usually good for 37s and moderate wheeling. If you want to jump your Jeep, pop air under the tires, absolutely thrash on it, and go with a 37 or bigger, to me, you need a 1-ton axle. So you can rock a whole episode on that if you go with junkyard or buy crate diffs or whatnot. But I'd tell this gentleman, lift size isn't dependent on axle. Your axle size is going to be dictated based on your tires and how you're going to use that Jeep and how hard you're going to be on it.
Okay, good. Yeah, awesome. Okay, good to know. Okay, and then the last question we have. So this gentleman is looking to put a lift on his Jeep, but is considering a resell. So he wants to resell it at some point. He wants to know when he's ready to sell, can he put it back to stock? Ryan?
Yeah, that's just going to depend on the kit. So if you did the kit like we were talking about, the short arm kit, you're definitely, most of that stuff's bolt on. You know what I mean? So yeah, you could just unbolt it. Definitely, you got to pay the labor. It's going to be a little more labor coming out because we got to put stock stuff back in, right? So you'd want to keep nice detailed boxes, nice, keep all your stuff good that came out, put it in the garage or shed or whatever, and when you're ready to sell, we just put her back in. You know what I mean? So it'd be really reversing the time. So it'd be so many hours that you paid to get it put in would be coming out, maybe a couple extra hours on top of that to put the original equipment back in, and then another alignment, and you're good to go. So we do have customers that, have that. I've asked that question, and that's kind of the answer. So really depending on the kit, like I said, if it's bolt on and we're not doing anything that's reasonably irreversible, you know what I mean, then it's pretty straightforward to put back together. And if you want to keep your stockman tires, like I got customers that do leases, 2-year leases, but they still want to be cool, right? So same difference if it's a truck or a Jeep. We would just do something moderate, because when you get into the trucks, even though we talk about Jeeps on this, but we got to cut some cross members out to drop the differential on those half-ton trucks. That's not irreversible, but it's pretty expensive for us to, set that up and re-weld those brackets in and remount that diff. But for the short arm Jeeps, it's just bolts, you know what I mean, and an alignment. So yeah, not to worry that way. You could go 3.5-inch short arm, run 35s or 37s, depending on what Jeep you got, and just take it all back off. So no worries. Just a little bit of money. So save up that cash to redo that part or figure it out in the trade-in or whatever you're thinking.
Okay, cool. Tim, anything to add to that, or is that about?
No, I think keep your stock stuff. Like Ryan mentioned, a lot of people want to sell that stuff off and then think they're making a couple quick bucks, but to have that stuff on hand so you can do that, if that's your intention, you're going to save yourself a lot of hassle buying that stuff secondhand on used marketplaces, or getting the shop you bought it from to source it. I mean, that can be a pain in the ass too. So if that's your intention, stick with a short arm kit or mid arm. I mean, you can do.
Yeah, do mid.
Fuck the mid arm.
Yeah.
Hey, upgrade.
Yeah, stick to a short arm kit that uses all the factory bracket locations, and yeah, it's not going to be a big deal to convert it back at all.
Awesome. All right, cool. All right, guys, that was it for questions. And wow, I think we covered like an absolute ton of information here today. We've been going for a little while here now, so I appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else does as well. Next week we'll get into the idea of wheel sizes, regearing, axles, all that fun stuff. And I really appreciate it. If you all learned something, hit that like button. Leave a comment below with any questions. And guys, what do you got going on for the next 7 days? Anything spectacular, Tim? Anything planned? I know it's getting warmer finally.
No, nothing major. Just more 6 a.m. and 2 a.m. Try and get caught up in work and get some projects out the door so we can have some fun once we're ready. But no, not on the brink.
Nice. Do you have the JK out yet? Like, is it on the road or is it still in the showroom?
No, it's in the shop.
Sorry,
it's
the
in the
big blue one.
Yeah, it's a bitch to even dig it out of the showroom, and yeah, we've just been lacking on time, so that'll come, but yeah, no time within the next week or two.
Right on, cool, yeah, right on. How about Ryan? Anything planned?
Well, there's always a plan. It's just never
execution, right?
I execute stuff, but there's always something going on. But
yeah,
just kind of trying to tear in our stuff and see if we end up ordering a Gladiator. I think it's like 99%. But then, so I should have one for November at this point.
Yeah, nice.
I want to get this jail done, man. It's eating my soul. I kind of just want to see it and then stick it on our ramps and mess with it and, look cool for a couple minutes, stand beside it, take some pictures. I don't know.
Nice. There you go. Drive it up to the mall.
Yeah, I got groceries to do, so I'll be good.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, as always, I really appreciate your time. I learned a lot. I'm sure everyone else did as well. So thanks again, and I guess we'll talk to you next week.